So this is where this is cargo cult phenomenon. It is the usage of primitive frames of reference after the collapse of an infrastructure by a people who didn't quite understand the technology they were observing. So this is almost the entire story of the Anunnaki and the Anuna that's been conflated. It's been totally blown out of proportion. So we get back to Bukhari, and he says here, Bukhari 1036, the hour in the last day, that's in parentheses, the hour will not be established until knowledge will be taken away. Earthquakes will be very frequent. Time will pass quickly. Afflictions will appear. Murders will increase. Money will overflow amongst you. That's a hell of a series of prophecies. The first one I want to isolate is that knowledge shall be taken away. Okay, for knowledge to be taken away and it's not yet the apocalypse, and I'm going to explain why these are totally before the apocalypse. What he's describing, in my opinion, is knowledge will be taken away. Okay, you do know that I am predicting a Carrington type event. I don't know what that entails. It may not be as serious. It may be just converting the entire world over to a new communication system. I don't know. But the internet's going to go down in some form this year, and it's going to be staged, and it's going to be brought back up, but it's going to have differences, and it's probably going to be blamed for a natural phenomenon like the Carrington event. If the Carrington event actually ever happened, it's still it's because so many people believe that it did, then that means an event can unfold, making more people believe that another one occurred. So something doesn't have to be true in the historical record to induce people to believe that it will be true, that it can unfold again. So
you think this will be a controlled event where they would, obviously the internet is such a huge threat to the elite that the knowledge that is out there for those who are seeking it, of course.
yes.
The internet is a very expansive tool, but yeah, I mean, you think that that's what they're going to do is to limit the knowledge that's there? I think that's the whole point of the Carrington event.
I believe when they decided to commercialize the internet, I mean, it's been around since the 60s and 70s. There's always been an ARPANET. There's always been something that the military and the university has been able to communicate and all that. And it improved over time. And once they commercialized it in like 1990, 1991, I believe their intention was to do exactly what it did. And that is not only distract humankind, but also completely pervert, lower the ethics and morals, make all these things that were forbidden in different cultures normalized to where everybody's on the same page. I mean, everything's out there now. We totally accept things today that if they would have appeared in the media in the 1960s, people would have been shocked. So things are you can go on the internet now. You don't even have to have parental controls on devices anymore. They'll go straight to everything you can imagine. So we have a situation where they did this intentionally, but they probably didn't think that they weren't going to be able to control the awakening that also came with it, because that might have been unforeseen. There's nothing the elite do without financing several think tanks at the exact same time. Yeah, they're trying to control all outcomes. There's no doubt. But this the knowledge be taken away was one element. He said earthquakes will become very frequent. That's just like Jesus said in the New Testament, that the frequency of earthquakes is not evidence of apocalypse. This is something Jesus said too. In the last days they will increase, but the end is not yet. He said that. So here's the interesting one. Time will pass quickly. Well, for time to pass quickly, this is an inference that the measuring of time that we understand today and in Bukhari's time, which is the same, nothing's changed since Bukhari's time. So this is indicative of something unusual. And that's exactly what we have with the second and third trumpet of the book of Revelation, which would happen after the Phoenix phenomenon in 2040. Now, I have isolated this event as 2046, the return of the Nemesis X object, which just so happens to be a totally different chronological factoring as the end of the Mayan long counts 13 Bactans of of 1,872,000 days. It also ends on 2046, and that has nothing to do with the chronology of the Nemesis X object. It's totally different. And it's also absolutely different from the geometrical calendrical relationships that were discovered in the Great Pyramid of Giza in 1924 by engineer David Davidson, who shows, he even explains, he says, I do not know why, but we have an orbital history of our world, and the Great Pyramid documents a 6,084-year period that Earth has moved around the sun 6,084 times. But according to the geometry of the Great Pyramid, measured by the 4 base diagonals, he produces a chart, and I've shown that chart in several of my videos, and he says the final year that Earth will maintain this orbit is the year 2045. He says, I don't know why. He says, but in 2046, the world will assume a different movement. And this is exactly, he doesn't even cite the Mayan stuff. This is 1924. Yeah. This is exactly what Mayan prophecy says. It says that the 13 Bactans measured time as a continuum. And in the end of the 13th Bactan, 2 things will happen. There will be an invasion of demons, and there will also, this is what the Maya say, I can't even pronounce it. It's Tzol something. The name of the Mayan demons is long, but
Tezcatlipoca, I think is the name.
I can't remember, but it's
the one of the
smoking
mirror. Yeah.
I read some stuff about smoking mirror. And, but it's an invasion of demons, and time will collapse. Now, for time to collapse is not that bad. Revelation describes exactly what's happening, and it makes sure that we interpret it correctly. And what I mean is in the 7 trumpets. And remember, this Quranic stuff is introducing the beginning of the trumpets right here. It keeps mentioning the trumpets. So in the trumpet period of the book of Revelation, this is 2046 and afterward, like 2052. In this period here, it specifically states that God will reduce by a third the day, the night, the sun, the stars, and the moon. It was very specific. It didn't just say day and night. It also mentioned stars, the sun, and the moon, so you would understand. If everything is reduced by a third, then our 365-day year becomes 243 days. If you take a third out of every day, our 24-hour day becomes 16 hours. So the final apocalypse, which is supposed to be from 2046 to 2106, a 60-year period, has a third removed from it, making it a 40-year period instead of 60 years. So 40 is also the number of trial and testing all throughout the Old Testament. I don't know what 40 signifies in the Arabic numerology, but in the old Judaic, Hebraic, rabbinical, 40 is the number of trial and testing. So I found it interesting that even in the Quran, we have a reference to a future time when time itself is going to be abbreviated. And in the book of
that's not in the Quran.
Oh, no, that's not in the Quran. You're right. Traditions. That's Bukhari. That's Bukhari.
It's Bukhari. It's
from the sayings of Muhammad.
Sayings of Muhammad. Right. That's right. Yeah.